Jennifer from Fiber Flux. Welcome back to the 2018 Fiber Flux Fall Crochet Along. I'm so excited you could join us again. This week we're going to be learning the stitch tutorial portion of the Autumn Landscapes throw. Now I chose some really bold kind of jewel tone fall colors, but I've really been enjoying seeing all the colors that you've chosen as well. If you're not part of the Ravelry Crochet Along group, hop on over there and you can see some of the photos of what people are choosing and play around with the colors as well. Now, some of you have asked me if you can use scrap yarn. That's perfectly fine, and really the square that we're making grows the more rounds you put on it. So you can really change the hook and the yarn and things like that. It's a very flexible pattern. So this week we're going to be learning how to do the stitch tutorial. Now this is basically a solid granny square, and every other round we're going to be doing regular double crochets, and then every other round we're going to be doing back post double crochets, and that's going to give us these really fun ridgy textures throughout the square. So let's jump right into the stitch tutorial and learn how to make this square. Now, as a side note, before we get started, I wanted to show you, I showed these last week, but with colors, you can really change up the look of your squares by adding and changing some of the colors. Now you can see all three of these are very different looks, and you can achieve that by kind of playing around with the colors. If you're not sure what color combination works for you, you can just work up a little miniature version, maybe the first couple of rounds of your square, to see how the colors kind of play together. Even the order of the colors will change your blanket's look quite a bit. So let's get started. So a blanket or throw or afghan, whatever you want to call it, is one of the largest projects you can take on when you're crocheting. So it is helpful to kind of figure out the order in which you want to do your colors, kind of lay them out, switch them around. So I like to lay them out as I work, but when it's time to put everything away, you might want to make a list of what order you did. And then once you've put on a complete cycle of the colors, if you will, you'll know the order from then on. So I chose to start with the goldenrod, and then I'm going to go with the coffee, the tea leaf, the real teal. Let me slide these out of the way a little bit. The real teal, the gray heather, and then the dark orchid. So these are the colors, or the order of the colors that I'll be doing. So that's the order we're going to go in. Obviously, feel free to do anything you like. You can make more of like an ombre look. You can kind of group your neutrals together. You can put some of these brighter jewel tones together. Feel free to do whatever you like. Okay, so that being said, let's scoot everything out of the way except for our first color. Now, like I mentioned before, I'm going to do one round of each color, and then we'll switch colors. So I'm going to show you pretty much right at the beginning how to switch colors. Before we begin, let's look at this label a little more closely, especially because this is a newer yarn. Now, as you can see, I have two ends here. If you roll your yarn back here, you can see a diagram. If you want to pull your yarn from the outside, use this side. See, it shows you. If you want to pull your yarn from the center, use this end, okay? I love the center pull balls of yarn, especially for blanket making, and multiple balls of yarn like this. So we're going to pull from the center. The other thing I wanted to show you is that, like the regular Super Saver, this is machine wash and dry, and it's 100% acrylic. They recommend the L crochet hook, the 8mm L crochet hook, and it is a 5 on the yarn weight scale. So if you need to substitute yarn, just look for a yarn that recommends this 8mm L crochet hook, okay? All right, so let's begin with the tutorial. I'm going to start with the goldenrod and work out in the order that we talked about earlier. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit of yarn out of here and my hook, and then we're going to get started, okay? So let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see what we're doing here. Okay, so what we're going to do to begin is to put a slip knot on our hook. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Next, we're going to chain 4. To make a chain, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now in the chain farthest from the hook, we're going to join with a slip stitch to create a loop. So insert the hook in the chain farthest from the hook, bring up a loop, now bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook. We're going to hold this tail along the edge as we work, and that will weave it in as we go along. Okay, so as a side note, if you prefer the magic ring, please feel free to do that instead. If you go over to the Fiber Flux blog on the written piece that will be on the blog today, using the link below, I will have a link to the magic ring technique if you prefer to do that instead and you're not familiar with it. Okay, so for round 1, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work 2 double crochet into the center of the ring. Again, we're holding this tail along the edge as we work. So to make a double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, insert the hook into the center of the ring, bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Then we're going to work another double crochet. Next, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. Then we're going to work 3 double crochet into the center of the ring. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, 2. Now we are going to cruise through this yarn pretty quickly, so it's good we have a ton of it over here. Okay, so work 3 double crochet into the center of the ring. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to work. If you need to slide things over a bit, that is super helpful to give yourself a little bit more space. Work 3 more double crochets into the center of the ring. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, chain 2. And then we're back where we started. So remember that chain 3 at the beginning of the round? Count the 3rd chain up. 1, 2, 3. Insert the hook to join with a slip stitch. So bring up a loop. Now bring that loop on the loop that's already on your hook. And round 1 is complete. So it looks like a little plus sign. So because we're switching colors, I'm going to grab my scissors and cut the yarn. We are going to do a bunch of rounds together. Okay, the first group of rounds to get you started. Okay, then the next thing you'll want to do before we grab the next color is flip it over and see that tail, pull that tail nice and tight, and then just trim. You can get rid of that little scrap there. And round 1 is complete. So you can kind of sharpen up. These are going to be our corners. You kind of sharpen those corners up, okay? So you should have this little plus sign and this beautiful shade of gold for autumn, okay? Let's grab our next color and move on to round 2. Okay, according to my list, the coffee is next. So thank goodness I made a list because it helps keep me straight until I get a few more rounds on this thing. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're not going to worry about this tail. It'll get woven in later on. In any of these chain 2 spaces, remember we did these chain 2s, they created corner spaces. So we're going to tie the new yarn right into any of these corner spaces. Insert your hook, hook that yarn on there, pull it through, and then just simply tie it right on, okay? So then once it's tied on, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then in that same corner space, work a double crochet, chain 2, and then another double crochet in that chain 2 space. And then finally, 1 more double crochet. So you have your chain 3, and that counts as a double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets. We've now worked the first corner. Okay, so to get that really fun texture that this blanket possesses, we're going to work some back post double crochets next. If you're not familiar with this, I'm going to go very, very slow so you can learn all of it. Okay, so the next section of our square here, we have these 3 double crochets. We're going to work a back post double crochet into each one of these double crochets from the previous row, okay? So to make a back post double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, come in from the back of the stitch, go around that post, wrap yarn around hook, bring it back through the way you came, and then finish off the stitch like you normally would. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Okay? Now, work a back post double crochet into the next stitch. Same thing. And a back post double crochet into the last stitch. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the back of the post, around, bring up a loop, bring it back through, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops, okay? Then, now you can see some of that coffee color is showing through, okay? So work your next corner. Again, that's 2 double crochet, 1, 2, then chain 2, 1, 2, then 2 more double crochet, 1 and 2, all in that same corner space, okay? Just like that. We now have one side complete, and it's very textured, okay? All right, moving right along, we're now going to work the sides, those back post double crochets like we did before. If you don't quite have the hang of the back post double crochet, just back up the video and you can watch it a little bit more slowly like we did back there, back here, okay? So work your back post double crochets, just like that, and now you can see that yarn is showing through. It looks very cool. All right, get a little bit more yarn from your yarn ball. And then we're going to work our next corner. I have a tail here that's wanting to come to the front. You can kind of tuck it into the back and deal with that later. Okay, now work your corners, 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, 1 and 2. Get a little bit more yarn there. All right, now you have 3 back post double crochets to work. So 1, 2, and 3. I love how those colors are kind of playing around and interacting with one another. Get some more yarn. Okay, work that last corner, 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, 1 and 2. Okay, now we're going to finish up the row. See, we're at the end already. Work your 3 back post double crochets across, 1, 2, and 3. Don't worry, we're going to work some more rounds of this later on as we expand, and you're going to see this all over again, okay? All right, now we're back at the beginning. So we're going to count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, and join with a slip stitch to close the round, okay? So round 2 is complete, and it's already looking really fun, tons of texture. So let's go ahead and cut the yarn, and we're just going to fasten off, okay? So now we're done with this color, and we can move on to the next color, which in my list here, sometimes I like to give these a little tug, get all these post stitches straightened up. So my next color is the green tea. So let's move on to round 3 with the green tea. Okay, this round is a little bit different. We're not going to be doing post stitches in this one. We're going to be doing regular double crochet stitches. Okay, so locate any of the corners and tie your yarn right onto one of those corners. Same thing we did before. And I have to say, no matter what you're doing on the sides of our square, so some of the sides will be post stitches, some of them will be regular double crochet stitches. but our corners will always be worked the same way. And if you notice, the sides each time are going to get longer. So it's going to be a longer stretch to the corner as our square grows. So what we're going to do is reach in with our hook, bring up a loop and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Once again, this counts as one of our double crochets. And then you're going to work a double crochet into that same corner space, then chain 2, then another double crochet in that corner space, okay? So our first corner is complete, okay? Okay, so we're going to work a double crochet in each of these side stitches this time, okay? So this particular round, each side will have 7, but as it grows, it'll be more and more, okay? So locate that first stitch right there and work a double crochet into that first stitch. Work a double crochet into the next stitch. And the next stitch. Get some more yarn here. I love those center pull balls of yarn. They make life so much easier. Just working double crochets all the way across. By alternating the post stitches and the double crochet stitches, it does help it to lay out a little bit flatter. Sometimes with the post, it makes it want to kind of roll back. So doing a round in between each one helps it kind of lay a little bit flatter. Okay, we're at a corner. So once again, work your corner, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, 1 and 2. And I wanted to give a little tip here. Sometimes when we work our corners, that first stitch on the round, or the side rather, can get a little bit kind of smushed and kind of obstructed. Just push your corner over and you'll be able to see it quite easily. So work a double crochet in each stitch down this side. More yarn, more yarn, more yarn. Just work it all the way across here. And I'm at a tail, so if you notice, I'm holding that along the edge. With a blanket with lots and lots of colors like we're doing, you'll want to weave in your ends as you go along as much as possible. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're ready to do a corner once again. So 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochet. 1, whoops, and 2. And we can work double crochets into these side stitches. 1, 2. Whoops, let's do that one again. That would be 3. 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, work your next corner. 2 double crochet, 1, 2. Let's get some more yarn. Chain 2, 1, 2, and then 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. All right, we're on our last side, and then we're going to switch colors again. I think switching colors for some people might be kind of a pain, but I like to see lots of colors, so I am totally willing to do that. So if you're not into that as much, just stick with colors longer if you'd rather do that. Once our blanket grows, you're going to be putting a lot more stitches around the edge of your blanket, so you'll be able to stick with one ball of yarn for a little bit longer as it grows. Okay, we're coming up to the home stretch. We'll be ready to switch colors again. Okay, so count 3 chains up, join with a slip stitch to close the round, grab your scissors, cut the yarn, And now we're ready to move on to round 4 already. Okay, you might want to kind of straighten this out a little bit. Looks very fallish already. Kind of has a retro look to it as well, to me. Okay, let's move on to round 4. Okay, let's switch gears and grab the dark orchid. So we're going to begin round 4. So insert the hook into any of the corner spaces, bring the new yarn through, and just tie it right into that corner space. Okay, just like that. All right, holding that tail along the edge, same thing. Reach your hook back in there, bring up a loop, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Work a double crochet into that corner space, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets into that corner space. So 1 and 2, just like that, okay? So the corners are the same thing. Now we're going to work our back post double crochets all the way across. So just as a refresher, wrap yarn around hook, come in from the back, go over top of that post, back down, wrap yarn around hook, bring it back through the way you came. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Okay? So work your back post double crochet all the way across into all these posts that you come to. This purple looks really pretty. I really like this color. Actually, I like all the fall colors. This is my most favorite season, and I've always wanted a fall blanket in my home, so I am super excited to be working on this project. Okay, we're just working our back post double crochets all the way across. And as you notice, when we did round 2 with the coffee yarn, we're doing basically the same thing, except for, as you may notice, we have more side stitches, okay? So go into the corner space and work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, 2 double crochet. Corners are always worked the same way. Just like that. Now we're ready to come back down the side with our back post double crochet. So just work those all the way, all the way around. Now for the rest of your blanket, we're just going to be repeating rows 3 and 4 for the rest of our project. Except, like I mentioned just a moment ago, your sides will grow. And that's how your square overall will grow in height and width as well. Okay. And again, you can not switch colors as often as I'm doing mine, but you know, I like to see, it's almost like a kaleidoscope of fall colors, but if you want some chunkier striping, I totally get it. You don't have to switch colors as often as I'm doing. Okay, so we're just working our back post double crochets, and we have 2 left here. There we go. And now we're at our corner space once again. So you can turn your work 2 double crochet, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, just like that. Okay. Okay, moving right along, working our back posts down this side as well. And I have to point out, with this L hook that we're doing and this chunky yarn, our little square has grown very, very quickly. It's one of the reasons why I love using chunky yarn. Not only is it very cozy, but it kind of takes a large project and allows you to cover a lot of ground pretty quickly, okay? So I'm just working these back post double crochets. And then after this, we're going to switch colors. And we're going to do a couple more rounds together. Now, if you've kind of already mastered what we're doing, we're really just repeating the same stuff over and over. But we'll do a few more together in case you would like to kind of crochet along and master these rounds, okay? And I'm excited to see all these colors unfolding. So we're at the corner again. So I did 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet. And I've come across a tail, so I'm also holding that tail along the edge as I work, where we joined the green, or finished up the green rather. Okay, now we are ready to head down the next side of our throw. Okay, so just working those back post double crochets. Same thing we've been doing, just lots more of them as our square is growing and growing. Whoops, I think I wrapped my yarn too many times here. All right, let's try that one more time. If you ever make a stitch and you don't love the way it looks, don't be afraid to pull it out and keep going, because it's really easy just to back up a little bit while you're in that location than to either have to rip a lot more out later, or I know some people, when they see a stitch they don't like in their work, they just can't look at anything else but that stitch. So, you know, don't be afraid to just rip it out at that time and, you know, just put a new one in that you like a little bit better. Okay, we are at the end of the round here. I'm just going to work these last 2 little back post double crochets. And then count 3 chains up, join with a slip stitch to close the round, okay? Cut the yarn, fasten off, okay? So we have round 1, 2, 3, and 4 complete. Now, like I mentioned before, you can continue on with your blanket on your own and just keep adding rounds. Just keep repeating rounds 3 and 4. Remember, for round 3, we did regular double crochet stitches to help kind of flatten it out. For round 4, we went back to those back post double crochets to give it that really fun texture, okay? I am going to grab the next color in my lineup, which is the gray. That'll kind of bring some neutrals back into this. This is a very vibrant square we have so far. And I'm going to work the next couple of rounds with you just so we can crochet along and you can see a little bit more of this square happen. But for those of you who are ready to kind of depart and go off on your own, just repeat rounds 3 and 4, 3 and 4, 3 and 4, over and over and over until your blanket really is as big as you'd like it to be. Okay, so let's tie the next color on, and we're just repeating round 3. Now, if you remember, round 3 was the regular double crochet stitches. And I really love gray yarn. I have this thing for gray yarn. It's one of my favorites. All right, so we tied the new yarn on, and we're going to chain 3. I'm going to zip along a little bit faster because we went slower in the previous rounds. I'm working my corner, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. We're just going to kind of zip around here. Okay, so again, you need to slide things over to see, kind of reveal that stitch. Do that. And work your double crochets in each stitch, okay? And what this does, like I mentioned earlier, is it helps with those post stitches, all that wonderful, all that wonderful texture is beautiful, but sometimes with the post stitches, see how it can kind of make it fold back, okay? It kind of pushes those stitches back. So what this round does is it kind of brings everything nice and flat again, okay? So just work your double crochets all the way around. And this gray heather is an interesting touch to our palette here. At first, when I was thinking about the colors of this blanket, I was thinking more of like a traditional, like yellows and reds and, you know, oranges and things like falling leaves. But then I was thinking I might want to kind of do something a little bit different of a fall palette. So here we are. Okay, we're ready to work the corners. Once again, the corners are 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, 1, whoops, and 2, just like that. And now we're ready to kind of zip back down the other side of our square and just work regular double crochet. All right, I'm going to continue around with my double crochets and we'll rejoin towards the end of this round. Again, we're just doing round 3 once again. Okay, but I just kind of wanted to show you as it unfolds what it's going to look like. And I don't know about you, but I am kind of curious to see how all these colors are going to start interacting. Okay, so let's continue around and we'll rejoin in just a moment. Okay, so we're coming back around the round here, round the round, and we're going to join with a slip stitch to close the round. Once again, same thing we've been doing. You can cut the yarn and fasten off. So as we add each new color, it's really shaping up quite interestingly. Looks very pretty. Okay, the next color, last but not least, that we have not yet used is our real teal. So let's grab that. I'm just going to get you started on this round because once again we're just repeating rounds 3 and 4 you know, for the remainder of the blanket. So I'm just going to get you started and just kind of see, honestly it's out of curiosity how this teal is going to look. Okay, so let's tie this right on here just like that and keep on going. So if you remember, the next round, once you do regular double crochet stitches, is back post double crochet. So we tied it on, we're just working the corner same way. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, okay? And turn your work if needed, just like that. All right, so we're just working back post double crochets once again. We get that tail out of the way, there we go. Same thing we've been doing, okay? Now, I want to say these squares, this particular square we're doing, you may recognize it from another pattern. I did a 12-inch blanket square called the Box of Color square. So if you want to check out that pattern as well, it's the same pattern, but we're making it into a blanket instead of a blanket square. But if you're working on your square, I just wanted to point out, some of the colors interact in such a different way than other colors. Like this gold and this brown really interact in a very bold, contrasting way. Same with this green and this really jewel tone purple are very much of a contrast. And then we hop over to the teal and the gray, and it's much more subdued. So if you start playing these colors out and you're not loving how it's kind of interplaying, you know, feel free to pull things apart, start over. If you start stitching and you're like, wow, I really wanted a little bit more of a statement here, you can just simply pull the yarn out and try a different color. See how everything plays together. If you want a little bit more of a gradient or more subtle changing of your blanket, you know, just feel free to rework it. You'll see right away how these colors are going to kind of play out pretty much right off the bat in these first couple rounds while your square is still pretty small. So that being said, if you want to kind of put this aside, I think I'm going to later on kind of play around with some other colors and see how the other colors kind of fit together. I may try more of like an ombre or like a more of like a rainbow order kind of look. So play around with the colors, see what you like, and we will rejoin next week where our blanket will be more or less finished. Now, as that being said, please go at your own pace. This is a relaxing project, but we're going to rejoin next week, and I'm going to show you how to put a nice little single crochet edge all the way around so you can kind of give it a nice little frame. And then we're going to move on the following week and learn how to do all the finish work, all these ends that we're creating, and add some really fun tassels to each point of our blanket as well. Okay, so keep repeating rounds 3 and 4 over and over and over until your square is as large as you'd like it to be, because next week we're going to put that single crochet edging on there. Okay, so that is how you stitch up the blanket. You'll just keep going and working more and more rounds until your blanket is as large as you would like it to be. Now you'll want to, if you're looking for blanket dimensions specifically, hop on over to the Fiber Flux blog, and the link is below. You can see a chart of standard blanket sizing. Now you may notice that some of them are square dimensions, some are rectangular dimensions, but you kind of get the general idea by looking. If you wanted to make it for a twin size bed, for example, you know, that's on there. All the bed sizes, stroller blankets, even a small lovey size, all the way up to a California king. So you can see all the blanket sizes there, and just keep working more and more rounds until your square is as large as you would like it to be. I'm going to work mine till 60 inches by 60 inches. Remember, this is a square, and it's a very flexible blanket. I know some of you asked about yarn weights. So this was made with a lighter, smaller yarn weight as well as this square, but you can see it kind of yields the same effect. You would just have to work more rounds if you're using a thinner yarn. So that's it for week 2. Stay tuned for week 3, which will be completing the major bulk part of our blanket, and we're going to be putting a really pretty simple edge around our blanket to kind of frame everything in. So stay tuned for week 3, and have fun working on your blankets. This is a really kind of go at your own pace kind of project. It's designed to allow you to relax, enjoy your crochet time. So I'll see you next week, and happy crocheting. Bye everyone.